Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Historical Commission. Today is Tuesday, May 21st, and it is 6:30 p.m. Pursuant to the open meeting law, any person may make an audio or video recording of this public meeting or may transmit the meeting through any medium. Attendees are therefore advised that such recordings or transmissions are being made, whether perceived or unperceived, by those present and are deemed acknowledged and permissible. Can I get a roll call, please?
Carrie A. Ash, clerk.
Joyce Roderick's present.
Rick Mancini, member.
Connie Zoll.
Christy Cantara Oliveira.
Larry Dykes.
Patty Rigo.
Ruben Emerald.
Okay, so we have a full board tonight. So our first business is approval of the minutes, and
I'll make a motion to approve the February 19th minutes.
okay, I have a motion to approve February 19th minutes. Do I have a second?
I'll second. Oh, 2 seconds.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, and then we also have the minutes from, actually, no, this is supposed to be April.
So is the first one February?
The first one is February because we didn't have a March meeting, so these are the April minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay, I have a motion to approve the April minutes.
I'll second.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. So on to correspondence. We have, the first thing we received was a request for a letter of support for 1833rd Street, which is the Allen Slade and Company building. We have given them a letter of support before, so this is just a continuation for Mass Historic tax credits. So I did send that letter to them. And then we also received a request for a letter of support ongoing for 64 Durfee Street, the Bradford Durfee Textile School. So I sent the letter as well. These are all for tax credits. And then we also received a request for a letter of support for 439 Pine Street, which is the Leontine Lincoln School. And so I sent that letter for continuing support. And I also, I had a phone conversation with Mr. Hebert, who has purchased the Lincoln School and he's renovating. So he did say that any of us that are interested in taking a tour of the building, he's happy to show us at any time. He's got a very flexible schedule. So I know I want to see the building. He said he did receive a TIF or a TIE from the city. I'm not sure exactly which one, but he got that from the city. And then he's working now with Mass Historical Commission, just going back and forth on a couple of things, but he did say that he is going to keep a lot of, well, pretty much all the original features that are there. He said that some of the apartments are going to have the original blackboards. He's got the cubbies that he's going to be working into. So he said he's really excited about the project and he wants to show it off, and he appreciates the help that we've given him, and so he wants to invite anyone. So I did say if we're going to do this together, we can only do it 3 at a time so that we don't violate any open meeting laws. But he said anybody that wants to see it, he'll work around your schedule. So if you do, just let me know and I can give you his contact information.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome. So one of the things that we need to vote on actually is a letter of support for Tony Dias. He purchased a property on June Street, 492, 498 June Street, and he is going for historic tax credits from Mass Historical Commission, and he would like a letter of support from us for that property. And he also extended an invitation for anybody to go and see it. He is there now, and I stopped on my way here, and the property is absolutely stunning. It's got original woodwork. He's already done some work in it. He pulled down some of the drop ceilings, and he's putting back the original ceilings. He's got pocket doors. There's the original, some of the leaded glass windows, the woodwork. There's beautiful fireplaces. So, I mean, we all know Tony, and we know that he is going to do just an amazing restoration job on this. So,
All right, well, I'll make a motion to write a letter of support.
okay, I have a motion.
I'll second that motion.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Tony will have his letter. But again, like I said, anybody that wants to see it, just, I think everybody has Tony's contact information. Just give him a call. He said he's there pretty much every night at 5:30 after that, so. It really is beautiful.
Yeah,
So,
it's good.
yeah.
Excuse me,
Mhm.
do we need a motion to support these various other areas like Third Street, Durfee Street, Pine
Those
Street?
are just,
I know, but do we need to vote on that to support them? I know it's reoccurring, but do we need a motion?
I mean, I guess we could, but I mean, we've always just, because we originally supported their project, and it's just an ongoing thing, because.
It's a requirement.
Yeah, we supported the project. We had voted on this the first time it came before us, that we were supporting the project. So now it's just something that Mass Historical Commission requires at certain intervals. So we just have to send an updated letter, basically with a new date. And, I mean, if you wanna vote on it, you can, but it's never been
If it's not a
something that
necessity, absolutely.
we don't, because unless we decide that we don't wanna support it for some reason, the project
Or if
hasn't
their
changed.
plans have changed.
Yeah, and if the plans have changed, then I would certainly let you all
Sure, not an issue. Thank
know
you.
about that. So there is one that we will be, another one we'll be voting on that we have not sent a letter for yet, so, but I did send you that. But, yeah, these they're just updated letters. So, is everyone okay with that? So then next we have a letter from EBI Consulting regarding a telecommunications facility installation at 363 Highland Avenue, which is up on top of Charlton. It's on the top of the building. And so they send that out to us just because it's in a historic area. So I know I sent that to you also. I don't know if anybody has any.
Yeah, I took a look at that, and it's not gonna be any worse than what's existing,
Oh, no,
and it's there.
yeah,
So there's the size of the microwave dish, microwave dishes are a little different, but it's
yeah,
basically the same concept.
right.
It looks ugly as it is, I'm
It
sure.
does, I mean, you've got the hospital there, so it's not,
Yeah.
you get the emergency and burgers
Very
room
nice.
there, so, I mean, yeah. Okay, so I won't send anything then, it's just, they send it out, and if we have any comments, then we would send the comments to them, but if nobody has any comments, then we won't. Okay, so, moving on. We did receive a request for a letter of support from Tony Cadero, he owns 162, 176 Pleasant Street, which is the S. Gorse and Sons block, and I know I sent that information to all of you along with what he plans to do. So he's also going for Mass Historic Commission tax credits as well, and so he'd like a letter of support from us for that project. I don't know if anybody has any questions or comments. I know I, for one, will be glad to see all of the hideous black cardboard-looking stuff on the front of the building gone, and just have it look much more authentic. And I'm sure he does a nice job with his projects, and I don't.
I'm glad to see there's 4 of the 16 units that are earmarked for affordable housing, so
Mhm.
that's a decent ratio. I don't really
Right.
know what like the standard is, but I was happy to see that that was included.
It's usually only 5%.
5%.
Yeah.
And it sounds like they're gonna be beautiful.
Oh, I'm sure.
Like, looking at the photographs, they look
Yeah.
like it's gonna be really nice, so.
Well, I know he's taking down the updates, the modern updates, and he's gonna be putting back a lot of the historical features, which I think is great. The tin ceilings, I
Yes.
mean, that just sounds really nice, so. Okay, so this one we need to vote on because it's a new letter of support, so if anyone would like to make a
Not to
motion.
play on words, but historically, Tony has always done a marvelous job.
Yes, he has.
I would make a motion to send a letter of support.
Okay, I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second that motion.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries, I will have that to them. Okay, next on our agenda is the budget, of which we have none. Expenditures, gifts, donations, again, we have none. And opening the bank account, that is, I still have not gotten down to see Carrie. But at this point, there's not, I mean, it will be nice to have, but at this point, I don't really think that there's anything that we're gonna be spending the money on when we, I mean, as far as our PowerPoint presentations, when we do hand those out, that's something that's done in-house, by the printing department, they do a nice job, so. We'll work on that. Summer's coming, I have more time. Okay, citizen input? Anything? Okay, yeah. So I do actually have something for citizen input that was sent to us by the Preservation Society of Fall River, and unfortunately, we didn't have, there's a representative that can't be here tonight, so he did ask that this be read as a public comment during citizen input. And this is regarding something that is coming up on the agenda, the Nathaniel B. Borden School. And that's at 45 Morgan Street. The letter says, the Preservation Society of Fall River objects to the planned demolition of the Second Empire-style Nathaniel B. Borden School, circa 1867, at 45 Morgan Street by its current owner. Although we understand there's no method to stop the demolition besides the city's 6-month demolition delay ordinance, we believe it's important that city officials, the general public, and the property owner be aware of our stance and why. The property is listed on the National Register of Historic Places and meets various criteria for preservation, including its architectural style and importance to the community, having served as Lizzie Borden's elementary school. The city sold the historic school for only $5,000 in 2012, and although it did not carry a preservation restriction on its deed, the initial proposal was for reusing the building. However, decay and the warehousing of trash as seen through its windows suggests that the owner never intended anything other than demolition, and an inflated mortgage reveals that the equity in the building was wasted on something other than the property itself. Nevertheless, the decision to demolish is up to the owner, but we hope that a lesson learned going forward is that the city not engage in sales of historic properties without expecting a preservation restriction and/or a reverter clause on the deed. Sincerely, Jim Soul, the Preservation Society of Fall River President.
Could I ask who is the owner of that building?
It's the same owner that owns TA.
Yes, the man that owns TA.
It doesn't seem to say who that owner is.
No, I can,
It's TA.
Carrie, do you know his name?
Kevin Santos.
Is it, okay.
I don't know if Kevin is officially the owner of record, but I believe he is.
Kevin
Santos.
Santos, I don't know who that
Well,
is.
that's who sent the request, oh, that's right, I have it right here in front of me, I'm sorry. that's who sent the request, and that's who I sent the letter to regarding the delay. So we're gonna be talking about this, so, can we just table this for a minute until we get to that on the agenda, and then we'll have a discussion about it. This was just for citizen input,
Okay.
so.
Oh, citizen input.
Yep, so we have this on our agenda, so then we can talk about it then, because I have a letter also to hand out to all of you. Okay, so we have nothing else for citizen input? Okay. Public hearings and determinations, we have none. Notice of intent to demolish structure, so again, we have the Pilgrim Mill at 847 Pleasant Street, which the 6-month delay expired September 20th of 2017. Thankfully, still the building stands. I'm always happy to see that. I go by it all the time. The building is still standing. I know nothing yet of anything that's happening to it, so yay. Next, 81 Ferry Street. That was not anything, that was not on the significant structures list. That's,
Is that the old railroad depot? What is, I'm not familiar with 81 Ferry Street.
it's on the side of, so where Tipsy Toboggan is. It was the building on the side of that, it was Quaker. It was part of Quaker. And it's just like, it's a big, long.
Brick building?
Yeah, it was a big brick building.
I have a
It's-
feeling it's the old railroad depot. What do you think, Larry?
I don't think so. Not,
Just guessing, because I'm not familiar, as I say, unless you go down there and look, but what
no,
do you
because
think?
that
I
building.
think that was the cardboard company, it was part of their loading
Yeah,
docks.
I think it
and
was,
storage.
I think that building was built in like 1950, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay,
But it's not on the,
It's not the
it's
old
not on the
depot.
register, no. No,
And it was the cardboard manufacturer was
Yeah.
there for years, and that
Yeah.
was their storage warehouse and loading, it's got a number of loading docks.
It
truck-
does.
Truck docks.
yeah, I'm pretty sure it was built in the 50s, because
I don't know.
if I'm remembering, it was like either late 40s or early 50s when I was looking up the date on the building, so it's not anything yet. So I sent a letter telling them that it wasn't on the register, and, I don't know what they plan to do with building, I mean, other than demolition, I don't know what they're doing after that. Boarding Remington? Borden Remington? Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, Borden Remington. I'm trying to say this and I know it's coming up. Borden Remington
Got it.
owns it. Yeah, so, okay. Okay, any other questions on that? Okay. So, moving on, 45 Morgan Street, so this is the Nathaniel B. Borden School, and I think I may have sent this letter out to you all. Do you need one, Ken?
I'm good, thank you. I have one.
So this was the request that we received, and it's from Mr. Kevin Santos. And he did put in a request to demolish the building, so as per our ordinance, I did send him a letter stating that it is on the significant structures register, so there's an automatic 6-month demolition delay. And the request came in on April 18th, so the delay started on that day, and it goes until October 18th of 2019. So I did also say in the letter that we request the opportunity to meet with him and discuss possible alternatives to demolition, and I did let him know that tonight was the meeting. He was not able to make the meeting tonight, but he did say that he would be willing to come to the meeting that we're having in June. So,
Is there any
Discuss.
information as to how that space will be used if it is demolished?
parking for a TA
Oh.
restaurant. So, tearing down a beautiful old historic school that was Lizzie Borden's elementary school for
Parking
parking.
owned by Mr. Santos?
I believe he owns TA. He's the person that put in the request. So,
Okay.
so I think between, I mean, I'm sure we all have thoughts on this, and I think that we probably all will have questions and concerns and comments and suggestions, hopefully, for him when he does come before us. I know,
That $5,000 was cheap parking.
yeah,
Sure is.
extremely, and
What's a parking space worth today, Ruben? About 15,000
Probably.
space? Okay, think about that.
Well, with the Third Street garage under renovation with additional spaces, I wonder if parking space is really necessary in the downtown area. But that's something to look into.
well, I guess because he's further up, so he,
Mhm.
I mean, they're not gonna really access.
Yeah, further
Third
up would also
Street.
include Pearl Street in that area, specifically going down one block, and that's another area, that's another garage that's under renovation.
Right, but I'm saying to go up to TA, it's probably not a place where people are gonna park all the way down there and walk up to TA, so that's probably
I think,
more
I'm not
his
sure of,
thoughts.
I know TA has parking in the back, but again,
They
that's
have
another
some.
issue of, to look
Right.
into.
And I mean, they have, even where the building itself is, there's parking in that lot around the school, because I've parked there
Hmm.
to go to the restaurant. I really don't agree, I mean, every fiber of my being does not agree with demolishing this building, and I really think that has to be ways to save this building, I mean.
Well,
And if,
let's talk to
I,
Mr.
well, that's the thing, I wanna know what the original plan was for this building and why it's changed.
You can see the
So all
registry deeds. And also the,
No, I mean, his original plan in the
Oh, I
building, what
see.
his intention,
well, I think he
was-
borrowed $400,000 on the building that clearly wasn't used on the building. I believe that's the amount.
So all the years that Mr. Santos has had this building, he bought it 5 years ago, you said?
2012,
2012.
So
There's
7
been
years
no
ago.
maintenance of that building
No.
nothing.
after he purchased it. So to me, the intent was
And
to
it's
let
filled,
it
it's
go
filled with
down.
trash. It's filled with trash. You can see it from the windows.
He had no plans. He had no plans when he bought it to do anything with it.
That's my question for him, was what was your intention of buying this building if nothing's been done with it?
So when you sell property in Fall River, it's okay not to have any plans for it. It's okay to sell historic registered property without a plan for that historic registered property?
Well, apparently there may have been a plan, I imagine. They had to,
Well, the original
so what
plan
was-
was to reuse the building.
but it
That's
doesn't
what
say,
was
yeah, it
stated.
doesn't say,
Well,
It doesn't
demolishing
say
is not
what.
reusing the building.
no, I know, it doesn't, no, but what I'm saying is it doesn't say,
Yeah.
the initial proposal was for reusing the building, but it doesn't say what they were gonna reuse it for. And I don't know because I haven't talked to him
Yeah.
personally, that's why
Probably
I
watch the
wanna.
archived meetings around that date, I would think.
Meeting with
The,
the city council?
yeah, oh, when they were doing the sales of
Yeah,
the,
that the real estate meeting would be the key.
when they were selling the schools.
So 7 years ago.
Yeah, and that real estate committee would have questioned.
Yeah, and so around the date of his purchase, I would think.
Well, I mean, I think Mr. Sewell kind of hit the nail on the head when he said that the city has a sort of a track record of selling properties without really knowing what the intent is.
I think that's
And,
slowing down a little, but around that time, the city had abundance of
Right.
properties
They did.
and unable to move them or do anything with.
Right.
And I just think that the mindset was, let's start shedding some of this property and get it on the tax roll. We don't have that kind of property any longer, so maybe it'll be a little more judicial in allocating who gets what.
I would hope so. But even then, it was 7 years ago, and just because we had an abundance at the time, and I mean abundance is kind of a loose term because they're still historic buildings, and we only have a limited amount of historic schools in the city, so it's not like, it's not like we've got 10,000 of these buildings just laying around.
So the sale occurred on February 13th of 2012, if you want to go back and research it.
Does it say?
There were no restrictions.
No restrictions. But it doesn't say anything about what the plan was.
No, this is just itemized.
Okay. So, I would say, so I am gonna put him on the agenda for, next month, because he did say he would come to the meeting, and I'm sure we'll have.
I just find it interesting that that would have been, or that has been listed, and it's the school that Lizzie Borden attended as a child, which is interesting, because if you take that, move over to bed and breakfast, and then walk up Rock Street, and then to Maplecroft, you literally have a Lizzie trail.
I know.
You literally,
We
That's
did, well,
actually
we
one of
do.
the, that's one of the stops, yeah.
exactly,
Yeah.
and as you know, my association with the Historical Society, there are groups, last week, came from Ohio to see the sites that pertain to the Lizzie Borden era.
Well, we had, a couple of years ago, when I was actually on the board of the Preservation Society, we had a trolley tour. We actually did this twice, and the first time they had a tour, and it was free, and it was a Lizzie cradle to grave trolley tour, and both tours were completely filled. There were people that just didn't get on the tour because there wasn't enough room, and we only had, a certain amount of time, and we had the trolley. But then we did it again, and we still, the second time
And the
the trolley broke down. But we had another 2 full groups of people waiting for that tour, and that's where it was cradle to grave, and it went to all of these places, and that was one of the stops on it. And I mean,
think
we've
it
already
lends
lost
itself
some
to
of the stops on
A
it.
unique possibility of recreating a 19th century classroom or a classroom building.
Mhm.
That's
So
something
in
that you will see in
20
other cities, and we don't have that.
In 2014, it looks like the city allowed a variance request to divide that property into 2 lots, leaving the existing parking lot and 1 lot in the existing building as a storage warehouse with office space on the other lot, waiving use and dimensional requirements, blah, blah, blah.
Do you know how much he paid for that
5,000,
initially?
5,000.
$5,000.
Mhm.
That's a loss, as far as I'm concerned, for the city of Fall River. That's a major loss.
The other part of the problem where the city really is short-sighted, and I know there are some people in the city, some in the administration, that really have a little more of a vision for tourism, promoting tourism in the city. And right there, you have an opportunity. There are so many people across the country, across the world, that are so enthralled with the Lizzie Borden story. There's movies made about this. There are TV shows made about this. There are people that come from all over. I was a tour guide at the Lizzie Borden house for a summer, and we had people coming from all over the world, not just the United States. There were people from all over the world that were completely fascinated by this. And I just think that the city really misses an opportunity, and a lot of people, like I see on social media, people are complaining, oh, it's so morbid, and we're gonna have that association with the city, but look at what Salem has done with the witch trials, and that's such a horrible, morbid period of history. And look at what happened with Salem, and I mean, we could do the same thing, and this right here is a perfect example of being completely short-sighted, and you have something that's so tied to Lizzie Borden, and we're just gonna let this go.
So there's an article in the Herald News from 2012 that lists all their plans for the building. Don't wait on me, I'm looking through it.
Okay. Well, I mean, we're still talking about it, so.
The high bidders plan to reuse the building. The TA group wants to use Borden for apartments and parking.
What was the date of that article? The date was,
The article was January 31st, 2012. It's the Herald News.
I would just throw a question out before we move on. I wonder if, I don't know Mr. Santos, but I wonder with the right incentive and tax credits, would he be willing to develop that building into its historic role?
Well, that's one of the reasons why I'd like him to
I'm
appear.
gonna present that with you, Madam Chairman. I think in the last few years that I've been around, our interest in preservation is peaking. And with the right incentive and maybe with the right support from the right people in the city of Fall River, like other developers who are working to sustain their buildings, maybe he would be willing to move ahead with that.
It's definitely a good thing to suggest.
Well, we can talk to him in June about it.
Yeah, so that's what we'll do. So, in the meantime, do some research,
Got
come
any
up with
thoughts?
some questions, your comments, your everything, and so we'll discuss that again next month. Request for exemptions, we have none. So advisory review, we have nominations, revisions to the Fall River Register of Significant Structures. So we do, I believe I sent that to everyone, 251 Cherry Street. So Mr. Ken Littman gave me a call and actually gave Kerry his number for me to call him. So I gave him a call, and he said that he was looking at the significant structures list, and this was after one of our visits to the neighborhood association. So he says, out of curiosity, I was looking on the significant structures list, and he said, my property's not on there. But everything around his is on there except for his. So he would like his property to be put on the significant structures list, and I said, great. So I will, I'll put that before the commission, and we'll have a vote on that, and,
I have a question about the nursing home on President Avenue that's about to close. One of the 5 nursing homes, you've seen it in
yeah, Highland Avenue.
Highland Avenue, I'm sorry. Yes, Highland Avenue.
Yep,
And,
Highland
Highland Nursing.
Manor Nursing Home.
right. I have to ask that question, is that building on the historic register? Is that a building that,
I would imagine that it is, I have not looked, but I'm going to guess that it is.
It would definitely be on the significant structures list. I don't know about the,
Yeah,
So
I'm not sure about, yeah, I know, it has to be on our significant structures list, I'm
on
sure.
Highland Avenue, no doubt, and I'm just presenting that to the commission to look into that as a building that's about to go online for sale, and what that possibility is.
So you mean if it's not on our structure, on the
Exactly.
list, to add it to the list? Okay. I can tell you right now if it is. I have the list on my phone. What kind of chair would I be if I didn't have access to our significant
Suppose
structures?
Street, Highland, and what was,
Highland and Stanley Street.
Highland is Stanley.
I believe it's
Yeah,
eight
Highland and
sixty, I
Stanley.
believe it's 861 Highland. I'll tell you for sure in a minute.
I would think it would be.
I would think it is.
I think the Highland Neighborhood Group is having a meeting about it. And I saw some conversation about that.
Your group,
The Highland neighborhood.
Yeah, they're supposed to be having a meeting about it.
I have to contact them anyway and set up a. Okay. So it more than likely is, because everything on that side, I'm not exactly sure of,
Do you know the address? The
I
actual
don't know off the top of my head, no, I do not.
I believe it's in the 800, I should know this, I used to work there. It seems like pretty much every building on that side of the street is on
The pockets across the
the
street.
Rising Sun, yeah. Rising Sun is on there, so then it would be
And it's Millville.
761.
761. Yep, the Robert C. Kerr House. So it is on there, 1895, Queen Anne. It's on the state register. It isn't, it's not on the national register, but it's on the state register. Oh, no, wait, it's on the national register, because it's in the Highlands Historic District. So, yeah, it's on the national.
And what
Yeah, the
happens
state
in a case
can-
like that, when there's a possibility of sale of a historic structure? What role do we have?
In the sale of it?
Well, in this particular interim period, it's possible it will be for sale. We don't know what the status is at the moment.
Well, we don't really have any say in it. I mean, even King Philip Mill was on the National Register and they still knocked it down. I mean, it's, unfortunately, our hands are tied. We are limited
Privately owned.
to a 6-month delay. And that's the extent of what we can do. And the only hope that we can have is when we combine the two commissions, hopefully when we rewrite the ordinance, maybe we can get a 12-month demolition delay, because 6 months does not give
Yeah.
us the opportunity to do anything, because even then, when we have people that come before us and they wanna, they're looking at what can I do to save my property, 6 months doesn't give you a lot of time. You have to reach out to Mass Historical Commission, there's things, applications to fill out, there's deadlines, there's things like that. So 6 months doesn't even give them time to find anything out, and it doesn't give us a lot of time to even work with them and reach out, so, but anyway, that's something we can talk about, later, but,
Well, that's in the Highland District. What can the Highland Historic District do about this potential piece of property?
You're very limited in
yeah.
that the property owner can do most anything they want to do with the property. If they're gonna make drastic changes, then I guess there are some things you could try and assist in. However, if it's not in a 40C district, you kind of just have to go with the flow and allow them to do what they want to do with the property. That's because there are not a lot of restrictions in Fall River in that area of preservation. And as Kristen was just saying, if we can tighten that up when we merge the two boards and redo the restrictions, not to make it so tight that you
Oh,
can't
no.
operate, but at least
just to give us
I
more
mean,
time
it might
to
be a
work
good
with
idea
them.
to know when it's being sold, to who it's being sold, have a
Right.
discussion with the person, with the buyer, you know, you probably have.
So I'll refer that to the Preservation Society and the commission to look into that, to see what the status is of that building.
I know that the
Potentially.
Preservation Society is meeting with the neighborhood group, with the Highland neighborhood group, but again, the Preservation Society wouldn't have, they would have that conversation in hopes to, you know, help people understand, the owners, buyers, sellers, buyers, whatever, understand the significance of it.
One of the reasons why we are doing the outreach to the neighborhood groups is exactly for this reason, because we see so many properties end up being demolished because people don't know what they can do. People don't really know who they can go to. They don't know what we do. And the fact that if we're reaching out to them and trying to get them to understand why we are so passionate about historic preservation. And we know, I mean, obviously, we're on social media, we see people, and we see the reactions that they have to old buildings, old pictures even, and people really care about the history of the city, but I think people don't know what they can do about it. So even just to have people understand, go to your neighborhood meetings and have a say, let these developers know, let these property owners know that these things are important to you, these things matter to you. If these developers or owners knew that there really was a public feeling of, we really want you to save this, and felt that they had the support of the neighborhood, we might have
But please
different
remember
outcomes on
that
some.
this same neighborhood group approved and supported the demolition of the other nursing home, which was a very significant property that now stands as a fenced-in, empty lot.
Correct.
So-
I passed by it and it's
Yes.
disappointing.
Yes.
Right.
It is very disappointing.
And it's an empty lot now,
Mhm.
for what?
And it certainly is not contributing to the neighborhood.
No, it is not.
And it was
But
a
it-
beautiful house.
It was,
Mhm.
and again, this is why we have our presentation, and in the presentation, we do have pictures of, you know, before and after, we have pictures of buildings that are just eyesores and buildings that are not, just so that people can really see why these things make a difference in your neighborhood. And who wants to look at an empty lot that's overgrown with weeds? Would you rather look at that, or do you wanna look at a beautiful building? Do you wanna look at somebody's building falling apart?
And
or-
that falls back into the, you know, the previous school we were talking to. The person who had purchased the property was gonna renovate it into an office space. And then it became, gonna expand it, and then it was, it got damaged by a storm and rain, and it just progressively got worse. It just, and our hands were tied. But the neighborhood group did support that.
It actually went to court,
Mhm.
and
Oh, actually, you attended?
that's right,
Mhm.
and I attended that session, and it was flat out, sorry, historic commission.
Yeah, well,
So
we're
we
set up
ended
for another one.
Yep.
We're set up for another one, and that's what happened, and that's another reason why I bring it up. We have information now that this is a potential loss.
It could be, and maybe it won't be. I mean, it's a beautiful home. There are people that want to buy homes in the Highlands, so, I mean, we do have the possibility that it will, you know, I think it's a little different from what the other nursing home was. This could probably more easily be made back into a regular home, because it doesn't have the real institutional feel of what a regular nursing home does. It's more set up like a home inside. So the renovating it back into an original home would be much easier. So I think at least it has that going for it. The building itself is in good condition. It's just the way that they, ran the business was not, but the building itself is a beautiful building inside, so, I don't know, I think just staying aware, keeping ourselves educated on what's going on with it. Maybe if we can reach out to the Highland group and get in there and talk to them as well. I don't think it's in imminent danger of anything happening to it right now. I think they're just sort of, it will, I'm sure they're gonna look to sell it, but.
I think one of the things that I found interesting in going to, so I accompanied Kristen and as did Rick to the Flint Neighborhood Association presentation that we did from this group. And one of the things I found interesting was, you know, we have a slide in there about the things that we can't do. And I think people have this misconception that we're gonna tell you what to do with your house and, you know, slapping a historic moniker on it is going to tie your hands, when really they still retain all of the power.
Oh, absolutely.
It's really more like letting people know we're not in opposition to you, we want to be a partner to you and helping you to maybe even add value to your property. So I thought that was something really interesting in that presentation. And I think I followed up with you afterward. I think social media, using media, no business person, no matter what you do or how rich you are, you don't want to have bad press. And if
Right.
people get behind that, just like with St. Anne's, when people get behind that, nobody wants that. It just, it looks, you know, bad for your business. So I think I'd like to, you know, I'm one of the people who, I'm like an admin on our social media. I'd like to put that out there and just let people know, kind of like, let people know who we are and like maybe put a few posts about how we're different from the Preservation Society and what that is. I think people don't know what they don't know.
Right.
You know, and I think if they really realize what we're doing, we just want to make things nice, and there are people who have fond memories of the city, that we want to bring that back. We want fond memories, we
Right.
want nice things to talk about. So I'd like to kind of use social media a little bit and put out a little bit of information about ourselves. So if somebody was a buyer or was interested, they would know who to go to, who to talk to if they're interested. So I just think it's a perception thing.
Well, because that goes into our next agenda item, so we're gonna continue this, but first, so we have 251 Cherry Street, and we need a vote on this, because he would like his
I motion to add
property.
it to the follow register of significant structures.
Okay, motion and second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so I will add that. Okay, so now, officially on to the PowerPoint presentation for the neighborhood groups. So, absolutely, what you said is right, and we, just by going to, I know a few of you have already come to some of the meetings, and people are very engaged, people had a lot of questions. I think they found it interesting because they did have misperceptions about who we are, what we do, and I think the other thing too is people think, besides the fact that they think that we have this power to tell them what to do with their properties, which we don't, they also think that we have the ability to help them save everything, and we don't. I think people give us way more power than we actually have.
But I think we hold a lot of information, like just,
We do.
you all know so much more than and I learn something every time I'm here, and I write my notes to go home and like
Oh, we're
read about
always
things.
learning.
So I think if we have this collective knowledge that people just don't have, and I think that that's what they should be looking to us for, not, funding, or because we don't have
We don't have that.
funding or I mean even advice, but just knowledge, resources, being that resource, being that authority, let's just say, to use the term. But I actually thought, I loved that the Flint neighborhood meeting. They're such an engaged group.
They were.
And
they really
I
were.
thought it was really cool that they had like a success story of, I'm bad with details, I have a toddler who steals my brain. But, and there's a property that they kind of worked with the developer to speak with him about.
Oh, Cornell Mills. Not Cornell Mills, Wampanoag Mills.
The Wampanoag Mills,
Yes.
about, they knew a school was there and they were worried about having a lot of traffic, so they, kind of worked with him to, it's now like over 50, I think, to live there, so they know that people who are of a certain age don't have cars. It was just a really thoughtful interaction that they had with the developer, and I thought that that's a really nice success story.
And the senior center, they also, the neighborhood group expressed their concerns about, they didn't have a senior center in the Flint, so they worked with the developer at the Wampanoag Mill, and they're gonna actually put a senior center in the mill itself.
And likewise, to not wanting bad press, who doesn't want to be like, we just bought this building and did great things, and look at the senior center.
Right.
So these are all like positives and pluses that don't really at the end of the day cost a lot of money. It's really like good, it's fostering good community building, and I think
It is.
most people who own a building in a community want the community to feel favorable about them. So these are all just things that I think we need to,
Well, we touched on that too in the Lower Highlands group because we had Alan Macumber there, who's working on the Durfee Textile building.
okay.
And so he was saying the same thing too, that it's, as a developer, it's important to have the support of the neighborhood group as well. And the Flint did a really great job of that with working with the developer to come up with something where it's a win-win. And I think, again, that's something that's important to get out there to the neighborhood groups, like, you know what? Maybe we can't do everything, but you guys still have a little bit of the power because you have the ability to work with them, and then you have the ability to say, hey, you know what? I don't like what you're doing. We're not gonna support you. And, you know, especially if you have a business or something like that, and you have enough people in the public that say, hey, wait a minute, we don't agree with this, and it's gonna reflect badly on you and maybe on your business.
I think
and
people
nobody
take
wants
pride in
that.
their neighborhoods in Fall River, that is one thing. They might not always band together as a city, but I do find that this is a really neighborhood-focused city. And I think people wanna have a say in what happens in their neighborhood, so it's just about kind of, you know, not automatically thinking there's opposition, but there's gotta be room for collaboration
There does.
involved in that. So, I think that was, I loved the whole presentation process. It was really nice to connect with people too.
It was.
Well, I'm wondering if we could just adapt the slide presentation that you're using in the neighborhoods to Heritage Park.
Yes, we had talked about that,
We
so.
talked about that the night of, I don't know if we've all seen the Fabric of Fall River.
No, I missed it.
Yeah,
Joyce
Joyce and I.
That is shown every day at 11 o'clock, but I'm thinking that either our presentation could be presented as a separate standalone
Yeah.
or as part of the Fabric of Fall River.
We could do it right, you know, either before or after and have something like that, which, because we had talked about that.
And that could be played every day to people coming in and out of Heritage Park, whether they're Fall Riverites or out-of-towners.
I don't know that they would play it every day,
Well,
but,
whatever, I mean, whatever the plan
but I mean,
is.
I think, no, but I think just to actually go there maybe once in a while and do a presentation just to the general public,
I think that's the
maybe
part
not
of
to
the engagement
neighborhood
part of it
groups,
is,
yeah.
was really, is,
Yeah,
I think,
it's part of
yeah.
their summer program anyway, so it would probably have to be, either it's done by slides in there, or if BCC works it into a video presentation, they could do that, but it also could be done individually. I would say it's
Video
part of the summer
presentation would be
program.
kind of interesting. But I also thought too, so we're going out to the neighborhoods. I did one, it was sort of a last minute one. Last night I actually found out at the night that we were at the Heritage Park for the Fabric movie. So I did the Niagara neighborhood last night. And it was a small group, but still, and I was following Paul Ferlin from the Water and Sewer Commission, and it was a very long, so I was kind of limited and didn't have the overhead thing wasn't working, so I was just working from handouts. But people were still listening, and I had a lady flipping through the thing asking me questions even before I went on and talked, so I just think that getting out there to the neighborhoods is getting people more aware, and the handout that we have that explains the difference between the Historical Commission, the District Commission, the Preservation Society, and the Historical Society. I think just that one thing is huge, but giving them, again, more information about what we can and can't do, or do and don't do, and letting them know why they are important in helping us and how we can help them also in their neighborhoods, and just explaining to them why it's important. Because when you lose historic properties in any neighborhood, and this is one of the points we try and get across to them, you're never bringing that back.
Mhm.
There is no coming back. There's one that we did in the Flint, and it's a picture of Immaculate Conception Church standing in the Immaculate Conception Church after that, half knocked down, and once it's gone, it's gone. There's no bringing it back. We don't have the people now doing this kind of architecture and craftsmanship and things like that. And everybody is always, I see on Facebook all the time in the historic photo clubs and those things, everybody's lamenting all of these places that we don't have. We need to get these people to channel that energy into saving what we still do have and getting the point across to private owners, developers, the city, the administration, everybody. This is important. We want to save what we have left of our identity, because if we become another city of strip malls, then who are we? So this is why we're doing this. So we do have one more right now scheduled. The summer, I'm gonna reach out, but I think it seems like the summer months, a lot of the groups take the summer months off. So I have one scheduled in June, and that's for the North End neighborhood group. So if anybody would like to come to that, just let me know.
Is that Maplewood?
No, the North End. North End neighborhood. They're also meeting at Morton, but it's the North End, it's not
Okay.
the Lower Highlands, so I can get you the date of that, I can't remember exactly. So I'm gonna take new pictures, I had done new pictures for the Niagara neighborhood, and now I'm working on taking pictures in the North End neighborhood group. So if any of you can think of significant things to take pictures of to add into that thing, just let me know and I'll do that. I have a couple, not a whole lot. So, and then there's also the boundaries of, okay, what's considered the Highlands neighborhood group, and what's considered the North End, and then what's the Lower Highlands, and it seems like the boundaries sort of mesh at spots, so I have to get the exact boundaries for the North End, but, so I started working on that. So if you can think of any significant things in the North End neighborhood, please just shoot me a text or an email and I'll take pictures of that. So, any other thoughts on that? On to scenic roads, I know this is something again that's on the back burner. Yep, so we're gonna keep it on here because it's there, it's just not right at the forefront.
Did you get the merger?
The merger.
The historic commission?
Oh my God, I skipped right over that, I'm sorry. Good eye. The Historical Commission, Historic District Commission merger. As of right now, I had sent some information to Kathy Ann Viveris, who was gonna pass that on to Judge Macy, because he was looking over some of the legalities of combining the two things, and I'm still working on trying to find other things, but I think it's important that we are the ones that have the hand in rewriting the ordinance when the two combine, because I think, no one really knows better what we do than us and what really is important to have in that. So that's something that I'm working on right now, is just kind of getting that together. And I'm also going to touch base with Jim Soul from the Preservation Society, because I know he also had some thoughts as well as to, because the Preservation Society was the reason why we have a 40C district, so they really need to have input on that as well when we combine the two. So right now we're just working on the little, the details of it, and as of yet there's nothing. I haven't heard back anything yet from legal or from the ordinance committee, but they're waiting to hear also from Judge Macy. So
Should we reach out to him? Should we reach out to Judge Macy?
I can.
Kristen, I don't remember when I sent this to you, but I happened to be on the Fall River website and government website, and I noticed that I couldn't seem to find or anymore the Historical Commission, but the Historic District Commission is up, and it says that it's the link says Historic Commission, but it links to but it links to Historic District Commission. So I don't know if you remember, I had sent that maybe like a couple weeks ago.
So we have, if you go under government, there's two. There's Historic District Commission and Historical Commission.
Yeah, I had looked
They're
at it one
separate,
day.
because I just actually, when I looked up the things for the significant structures, that's where
Okay.
Yep, so there are two, the only thing is, and I talked to Carrie about this today, we just have to update the district commission one, because some of the names are still the old names and that, so we just have to,
I have a little hard time on the website sometimes finding
Yeah,
things I
it's
want
not-
to find.
it's hard to, you go to the government, you go under
Government,
government,
okay.
and
Like
then
that
it's
chat bot's always
there.
asking me questions.
No,
Doesn't know anything.
Just click right on government, and then it'll give you Historic District Commission, Historical Commission, and I also wanna put the PowerPoint on there. But what I wanna do is put pictures from all over the city, so we do a general one out to the city, not just geared toward one neighborhood.
That would be good for
So-
any, developers or potential people who might just be like looking around for information and happen upon it or whatnot.
And I wanna put too, the handout that we give that tells the difference between the four things. I mean, there's a lot of things, we have the ability to put pretty much whatever we want pertaining to us on that page. And also even on the Facebook page as well, I wanna put the PowerPoint on there, so, yeah. And again, for social media, if any of you find articles, put them on the Facebook page.
They
We all-
actually get
we
really
all
good
have-
engagement a lot of
we
the
all
times.
have, yeah, we have access, we all have access to being, admins on the page, so put things on there. Anything that you see that's pertains to history, to forward, to other groups, Preservation Society doing things, or, Lafayette Durfee, any people doing anything historic, put it on there. Because we do get good feedback sometimes on the page. Okay, anything else on the merger? So I will get in contact with Judge Macy and see where he stands with what I sent him, but also, like I said, I'm working on the details of the ordinance, and I need to get together with Jim, so. Okay, next, Oak Grove Cemetery, North Burial Ground. So again, we still, as of yet, have no representation on the park board. And I am waiting to find out if we even have, so I guess, unless
When you
something
met with the
is-
mayor, was that discussed?
Yes, and he said that he would send Rick's name right down.
Yep, you said that.
He did. And I guess the problem, because Steve Camara called me, and he said that there can't be a representative from the historical commission put on the park board unless it's written in as an ordinance or a park board ordinance, that there has to be somebody because it's in violation of the charter unless it's written in there. And I've looked through as much park board material as I could find online as far as their ordinances, and I have found nothing. I also didn't find anything about
Maybe
when.
Steve can share that with you, whatever he's quoting it from.
Quoting what?
He's saying it's violation of the charter.
The charter, how
You
you
can't
can't
find-
have, no, not the thing on the charter. What I can't find is anything written in the park board ordinances or new ordinances added saying that somebody from the historical
That
commission
was a
needs to be.
city council meeting
It
that
was-
occurred.
It was, but I don't know if there was anything like written ordinance-wise into anything that states that, and Steve said unless something was, they really can't do it because it goes against the charter. So the only way that's gonna happen is to change that ordinance, or something has to be done in that way, and I don't know how they're gonna go about doing it.
So, I mean, the other way to get around it is to have any historical park underneath our privy. That would be the way to go.
And trying to get that from the park board is going to be.
Well, I mean, we should be
Um,
involved with
We
it.
should, we absolutely should.
Hands down.
We
So,
absolutely should, and this has been the big clash, and the two cemeteries, the two historic cemeteries. This has been the big clash since, as long as I've been on.
Yeah.
Well, 7 cemeteries, because the others are all historic also. Yeah, you got it.
But I mean, we have
We've
two
got
on
to
the
do that.
national,
That's-
on
that's
the
a good
national
idea.
register, so.
I do think we should oversee it.
how do we go about doing that?
Maybe that's a discussion for another time. Maybe it's sitting down with Judge Mason first. And discussion for another time.
Well, I do have one update. So, North Barrow Ground, they actually are gonna start working on that. They did come back and request extra funds for North Barrow Ground to do the work on the wall and on the building there. And CPA did approve that, so they are going to be, they have, Mike Keen, what's the name of his firm? Civitech
Yeah.
Architects, and so Mike Keen is on board with that, and they've done all the work as far as drawing up the plans for the building and that, so now it's just moving forward, so they did get their extra funding, and they're at least gonna be doing that, so something will be done with North Barrow Ground and Oak Grove Cemetery. I mean, besides them coming before us at the last meeting, there really isn't anything else that's going on there, as far as I know, so. And on to, we can take the next two together, Kennedy Park benches and Clover Park's renovation project. Again, we need to have some type of representation or say over the parks and how do we get there. So, meeting with
Bringing that up to
Judge Macy is a good,
I know that the mayor concurred with that when we spoke with him
Yep, he
that
did.
time. And
he did.
we saw the mess that happened when we didn't have any kind of say in overview.
And God forbid that happens again. I know they're being a lot more careful, but regardless.
So perhaps since your meeting, you're going to be inquiring about you're contacting Judge Macy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
So signs on historic properties, actually, I meant to take this off. This was a mistake. This was something we had talked about already, about taking this off. We voted on taking that off because Rick had already done sort of the legwork on that, so we already know kind of where that was. And that was just me forgetting to take that off the agenda. Sorry. Weaver Street, preserving the smokestack, and I have not had a chance to write that letter as of yet, but the smokestack is standing. I did go down and take some pictures of it, and it's standing. It's in a pile of bricks and rubble, and it's just a beautiful smokestack.
Standing tall.
It really is. It really is. You know, standing after the fire. It's, to me, it's just such a symbol of this city.
Totally.
And how, you know, even with this destruction of so much of the part of this, it's, that structure is still standing, and obviously it's
So Star cannot, they've been shot down, they can't do their rehabilitation.
as of
facility.
right now, I don't know if they're.
I believe it's still pursuing.
Well, I had an interesting conversation with somebody over at St. Anne's, and they was in the rehabilitation department, and they said that because there's a marijuana facility across the street from her, or like it's in really close proximity, that
It's right across
I don't
the
think they
street.
can do a rehabilitation facility there. And the city approved that marijuana facility knowing that, sorry, that's fine. Oh, luckily the cat is on. But they approved that knowing that the proximity would.
Put the kibosh on it.
Yeah. So now I'm just really curious what Star's gonna do if they can't, you know, and more in terms, I'm obviously not worried about Star, I'm worried about the smokestacks, but.
Right.
it's just, I just find that really interesting. It just seems like there's not a lot of forethought going into what we do with properties. Right, I don't mean me, but.
Or maybe there is
Yes, there
foresight.
you go.
Um, So, yeah, sometimes there's more foresight than you think.
The saving grace is still there.
Yes.
Has not been knocked down. So somebody has got it in the back of their mind. So something's positive happening, at least in this.
But it's just such a majestic structure when you really go, and I mean, I took these really cool pictures of it. One of them, I want to, sorry. Like I want to frame it. It's just such a great symbolic image, and just to think that if somebody does, whether it be Star or whoever, were to buy that property and just, build something around it, but just as a testament to really, you've got this history and something that's so symbolic of Fall River that still rises from the ashes, basically, and regardless of what gets thrown at us, we still stand tall. And I think, to me, it's so symbolic, and I know I want to save everything I can, but this really, for me, this really is so, it's so important. But anyway, so I'll work on the letter, but right now, I mean, they're so in,
It would be interesting if,
whoever's gonna have a look at it.
I know the Herald News is kind of, well, I mean, a lot of people say, nobody reads it and whatnot, but I know they do, I believe they have either a deputy editor or a new editor, but I know that I've seen some new life being breathed in a little bit, and it's owned by Gatehouse Media, and I just wonder if there's a way to, what the interest would be if there was a column, even if it was just weekly, about historic properties, and about, to tell the stories of these buildings, and just kind of get some, again, people don't know what they don't know, and there's a lot of people who haven't been in this city their whole lives, who have come here for whatever reason that they've come here, and they don't even know where they're living. They don't even know that they should have pride in a place, because nobody reaches out to them, so it's not like, they haven't fostered a sense of community. They have their community, their ethnic community, but not the community of Fall River. So I'm just kind of curious, just trying to find, I'm from a marketing background, so I'm always looking at how to use information to kind of sway people into, not even sway, just.
There is a reporter who tends to follow kind of what we do, and he does he's called me a couple of times, and he's the one that called me the last time about the smokestack. And he had also done a couple of articles on Immaculate Conception Church as well, so I think he has that sort of a bit of interest in the history, so he might be one to.
I think that's just always interesting to. They're always looking, the paper's filled with things that are negative, so, this is just an interesting piece, and if he has an interest in it, perhaps might be something to just look into.
And they do occasionally do stories on different things, because I know there was one on the history of Globe Four Corners, or the Five Corners, and there are.
I do see a lot of their
stories
social media. They would probably like that more for a social media piece, but again, that all ties back to.
No, but it all goes in the actual newspaper as well, but then everything is online too, so. I think it's just a matter if we reach out to them on certain things and say, hey, here's something that could be a story, here's something that's important, and that's all it really takes. What are they gonna say? No, we don't want to. But maybe if they are not aware of it and somebody's willing to reach out and say, hey, this could be a possible story for you, then.
Perhaps you could share his name with me?
I have his contact information, I can do that.
I just think that, there's a couple of people that have worked for that paper that really care about Fall River, and the lifestyle editor, and just, they're always looking for good stories, and I think, just pitching something, and if they ignore us, then just.
I don't think we get ignored as much as we used to. I think, honestly, we get a little more visibility now, so for that, that's a good thing.
And on social media, you can create your own visibility. You don't need to ask anybody's permission. So
and we try. We do. Okay. Anything else on the smokestack? Okay. So moving on to new business. The annual report. If anyone has, I'm going to be working on that, and it's just basically going to be adding to or changing what we did last year a little bit. numbers and things like that, adding in some of the newer stuff. If there's anything you can think of, if you wanna go back and just take a look at the old one, and it's short, it's not 100 and something pages. If you wanna go back and look at it really quick and see if there's anything that you think we should add to that, that's happened over this past year, because I'm not gonna remember everything. Please, next month, we'll talk about that, or just shoot me an email as well on things that you can think of. But yeah, it's just gonna be an update from last year, and I have to get that, I think I have to get that done soon, huh?
I think the end of this month or the next, I wasn't sure, I think Tony said it can continue into June.
I think so.
Yeah, excuse me, July, for some odd reason, because one of them was late.
I think that's the district commission one that was late.
Okay.
I think mine is supposed to be.
You're correct, it was
It's
the
the end of
district that was.
June.
Yeah.
And I think we only have the extension to the district because of one follows the other.
Correct, so you
Yeah.
give the individual some more time, correct?
Yeah,
Okay,
so I
that
think
would make
it's
sense.
June that I have to,
Yeah.
so if you can think of anything
Sure.
quick and like just send that to me. But really it's just changing the numbers of, you know, how many people we've reached out to, adding in that we have the ongoing neighborhood districts, maybe some of the projects that we've managed to save or not save, things like that, just an update, and some of the, putting in the new members, of course. And open discussion, if anyone has anything.
I wanted to bring up the YMCA of lighting. I've received a lot of negative feedback about how bright it is, and they really, the way they presented to us is that it was not going to be extremely bright, invasive to the neighborhood. Luckily, we didn't agree to have them put it along the sides because that would be facing people's homes. But I'm not sure how bright it actually is, what the lumens are, blah, blah, blah.
There's definitely restrictions on that.
Yeah.
But
You know what I'll
I
do
haven't
for kids?
seen it yet.
What I'll do is, I got a meter, I'll just go out there and take some readings on Main Street, that's easy enough to do. Get a nice clear evening and see if they're well within the standards.
Okay.
I'll take
Because
care of that.
they actually had told us that they were gonna be,
There you
they
go.
were going lower than the standards.
That's what it is, and it was, remember,
It's
it was
supposed to
gonna
be
be,
white.
it was supposed to be white, and there was supposed to be, it was supposed to be to illuminate the street, but remember, they said they were gonna put sconces now,
Well,
because we
they were
asked if
supposed
they
to
would
come
do.
back to us, so.
And they didn't put any sconces.
Well,
and
first of all,
it's-
they were selling it to us saying it was for safety.
Safety, and of course, there's no lighting on the street, it's just all uplit on the building.
So it's really for lighting the building, but what I'm saying, what I'm hearing, because again, I haven't seen.
That's what it looks
Was
like.
that it,
I don't know if
Oh,
anybody
wow.
has seen it,
Oh,
It's like a nightclub.
so that's what it looks like.
Wow.
I mean, it
So I
does-
was concerned because I don't think we agreed to, I mean, they seemed they were being conservative with the lighting, how bright it was, and they said it was white and it was mainly for safety
Yes.
purposes.
And this is,
And
it's
that's
quite
clearly
colorful.
not what it's for.
I mean, I will say, it looks pretty,
And my
um,
question is, how do we hold people accountable when they've come before us? What do you do after the fact? Because, you know, like, we're getting these,
but if we go there and find that the lumen level is too high, then there's perfect crutch for us. We violated the directives that we had, so let's correct that. And they can do that by putting shades on, or
just dimming.
putting some sort of a dimming device
Right.
on there. Yes, so, you know, there are situations that we could do to correct it. If the glare, that's a dark area, really is. So a candle is extremely bright.
Yeah.
You can't see the candle in the daytime, but light it up at night, a dark area, whoa, it's very bright. So that whole area is dark in the church.
Right.
All of the buildings in that area, there's no light, very little street lighting, as a
Right.
matter of fact, there. So So
Well,
that sticks out.
it is a neighborhood though, like we can't like forget that, like not the North Main Street area, but it is a neighborhood there where, you know, it's homes and that's where people live there. And it's already been invaded negatively, it's had a negative impact on the neighborhood, the parking and the one-ways, like blocked
knocking
along.
down a historic home.
Yeah, I mean, so they really do need to give back to the neighborhood a little bit.
They also said the LEDs are color changing. They could leave it white.
Yes.
But it's not, it's
Yeah,
blue
that-
and pink. I mean, it looks really pretty, but it's quite,
It's a lot of lights to.
it is,
Yeah.
and but it does, when you see it, even though it's colored, it really highlights a lot of the architecture as you're driving by it at night. I'm not sure, I mean, I know it really doesn't sort of affect the houses on the sides.
It's gonna have some
But-
kind of impact though, like, I don't know, but
Unless
like
you
I
have to
said, I
drive
haven't
by at
driven by
night,
it at night.
You should, because it's not, it looks bright like that, but I think when you're driving by there, it doesn't seem to throw off much light around it. But my concern was that they didn't put the sconce lighting
Yeah.
down the bottom, which we had suggested to light.
And that's
the
okay, 'cause
thing,
you
but
know what,
that's
I
what they
prefer
wanted
them
it
not
for
doing that
safety.
to the
Yeah, but-
building.
But they wanted that for safety, and there's
Did
no
they?
safety lighting.
But did they?
Not yet. I don't know if they're still planning on doing the sconces,
Read
but there is
between
no
the
safe,
lines,
yeah.
like,
But I
come
mean,
on.
so all it is really is the uplighting on there, but, I mean, it looks pretty. I'm not really sure how it's affecting the neighborhood, because it really is just on the front
I
facade,
don't know, like I
so-
said, all I've heard is that it's very bright and it's not, it's, I don't wanna say it's ugly, but that's the feedback that I'm getting, they can't believe the way it looks. I
Which-
would like to drive by there, but I do think if they're saying it's bright, I just don't know how to figure out if it's, you know.
It's easy enough to do.
I wouldn't say it's
And-
ugly,
and they
it's
had-
just, it's different.
Yeah.
I mean, it's colorful and it's pretty in a way, but it's not, definitely not what they said.
Which raises another question, quickly. The CPC approved the historic documents that the preservation recommended?
Yeah, the guidelines.
The guidelines?
Yeah.
What's the status on that? I see that the CPC has approved that. Is the money going to be relinquished?
It has to go
shortly?
before the city council.
Yeah, city
first.
council has to vote on it.
And that's going to occur,
Next month.
June,
Okay.
it should be June.
okay, good.
Mhm.
Okay,
And
so
then
we're
after
still
that, then they have to wait for the money to be released, and then the people come and they inventory the city and they write the book, and then, sometime next year.
That would have been a perfect situation to utilize that document,
That's exactly right,
right?
right? That's exactly
Perfect
right.
example.
However, that is a building that used tax credits, state tax credits, and so we did have a say on what they did and did not do. I mean, we could have shut down the entire project.
Yeah.
But we took them for their word. And where they were putting the uplighting was on the lip of the building, so that you wouldn't be able to see it. It was supposed to be subdued, it was just really to highlight the building, and they were gonna look into putting in sconces for safety, for sidewalk safety. So that part is really not for safety, so that the need to have, pink lighting or red lighting, whatever I saw, it
It's pink
does
and
look
blue,
like a
it's
nightmare.
it's like
Yeah.
fuchsia and
Yeah.
blue.
Yeah,
That's the YMCA colors.
Fuchsia and blue?
Yeah,
Oh.
they have many colors, but that is two
If
of
they
their
tone
primary.
it down a little,
I think there's
that-
just, there's a lot of lights, I mean, there's many repeating lights, and then if they're all at the.
It's
even
a
if they-
whole,
even if-
it's a strip of
That's a
light, and
lot.
you can actually see it, like, there's these big things, and you can't actually see them from the street during the day. It's not,
so
You
should
know.
we reach out to, I don't recall who it was that
Stephanie.
came in.
Stephanie, yeah.
Stephanie.
Stephanie Mancini,
yeah. Is it Nancy?
she's the executive
No.
director.
Oh.
Yeah, she's not related?
No.
So maybe something like that. I don't really know what we do after the fact if someone hasn't followed, but
Do you wanna reach out to her?
I can reach out to her. I need her contact
Okay,
information.
I'll send that to you.
At least they didn't put the downlighting like they wanted to.
Can you imagine if that went both ways? what you just showed me.
Well,
Up
that's,
and down.
that's why we had said the sconces,
Yeah.
because the downlighting, you were gonna see it from
Yeah.
there. And so we thought that that would be better
No,
because they were
we had a
really-
long
yeah.
conversation with them.
Yes,
Mm,
so, okay, I'll send that to you.
okay.
Anything else for open discussion? Okay, and, so our next scheduled meeting is going to be Tuesday, June 18th at 6:30 in this room here. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I second it.
Second, motion and a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, good night, everyone, thank you.